Welcome to the 24K Life podcast. I'm your host, Derick Gant. Here at the 24K Life, we love to make sure you are living your best life by having the absolute most recent, updated, and in-tune details, tools, techniques, and information on how to improve your life. Listen, there is no one way to live your best life, but we like to bring you guests that introduce concepts, ideas that we didn't know about or that need further explanation. And today is absolutely no different. We have Reed Davis, who is an excellent expert, founder of several organizations, and author of The Gap: Simple Steps to Reclaim Your Health and Reverse Most Chronic Diseases. With that, good day, Mr. Davis. How are you?
Hey, fantastic, Derick. Thanks for having me here today.
We're glad to have you. We have experienced the information that you are going to help us clarify for a little ways. And for the sake of the audience, Reed is a certified holistic health practitioner as well as a certified nutritional therapist. So he is certified in two incredibly great areas, and he's the champion of an area that I really want to get more into over 2025, which is functional medicine. You know, it's my personal belief that traditional medicine, conventional medicine, does a great job of keeping us around, but functional medicine does a great job of keeping us around healthier, looking to solve problems, not looking to pacify and continue to move forward. Reed, am I too far off on my belief about the differences between functional and conventional medicine?
No, you're right on the money. It's in an evolution, you might say. And I'm excited about functional medicine and where it is going from here, because it has become a major alternative to conventional medicine or traditional, or what I call standard medicine. If I could just tell you, going back 25 years ago, there was alternative and standard. They were quite even opposed to each other. But then that alternative, which I started working in 1999, became more or less complementary to standard medicine. In other words, it was being accepted more. And then that complementary became integrative, which means that standard medicine was forced to take on some of the alternative stuff because people want it, and they have to follow the marketplace, you see. So that alternative went to complementary, went to integrative, where now it's expected that standard would have some alternative built in. And then functional came along. Again, they're market followers and trying to bring it together, but they are still very much bound to the, the diagnosis and treatment model. And that means treating, one part, one fix. It was still a lot of drugs and surgery and things. So it hasn't fully evolved, but I'm really impressed with the direction it's going in.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. In my own personal experience, I have some sort of blood condition, not sure what it is. The doctors aren't sure what it is. It's been going on for 15, 20 years, where if I don't take blood thinners, I clot. And yeah, it's weird. And they tested my parents and tested my siblings and everything, and still haven't been able to figure it out. So Smart Derick, actually 9 months ago, and I preface this by saying this has been going on for 15, 20 years, but Smart Derick, and I'm doing that in air quotes for you all that are listening, went to a health food store after doing a bunch of internet research and decided to substitute my blood thinners with cayenne pepper pills and some other hot shot type things because it's supposed to thin my blood. I wouldn't say it was a bad idea. What I would say was an untested idea. And because I didn't test it, meaning go back and get my INR, which tells you how thin or thick your blood is, I didn't do that. And I suffered a mini stroke working out in my backyard.
Wow.
So needless to say, this area has been a very, very interesting area for me. I really want to dive into it and understand. I really don't think that we can understand. And when I say we, I mean lay persons. And you're an expert, and, us lay individuals really understand, you get, don't eat eggs. Eggs are bad for you. Then you get, eat eggs. They're great for you. Don't eat this. It's bad for you. Eat this. It's good for you. Don't do these things. So you get all this contradictory information and you get a little stuck. So before we get into the moving forward, and what the improvements you see and some specific questions I have for you, Tell us about where you come from. Where are you? What's your history? What's your background?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, again, I'm pleased, and I'm sorry to hear about your personal, but all of this is personal. Every person that comes through my course, like I teach a course now in functional medicine, functional lab work, but only as it applies to all natural, self-directed therapies, remedies, and lifestyle medicine, really. So, but I was in the 90s, I was in basically saving the whole planet, air, birds, water, trees, bees. I was an environmental paralegal and conservationist. So cleaning up the planet, so to speak. And, when you see enough dead birds and dead fish, you start wondering about people. And that happened to me, along with the fact that the business I was working in, I just wasn't happy there anymore. Even though I loved the work, I had a great purpose, a great mission, saving the planet, man. Just the working for a big company wasn't for me. So I changed jobs. I actually went to work for my son's chiropractor. So this is in 1999. My son was a high school athlete, total stud, he got 7 varsity letters in 4 different sports. And so I was getting him all fixed up all the time. He was seeing this chiropractor at a wellness center, and I was fascinated by what they were doing. So here I'm working with the environment, and it was bad, although we were cleaning up a lot. And then I wondered, how does it affect people, including myself?
Right.
Because even though I was healthy, Derick, I didn't want anything sneaking up on me. I was in my 40s back then.
Right.
And so, yeah, you don't want something sneaking up on you, like just what you have going on with yourself. Anyway, so I'm talking to this wellness center, and I went to work for them. I want to learn everything I can about people.
You just tapped in right away, and you felt it. You knew that's where you were supposed to be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, it was just amazing. I loved what I was doing, didn't like certain things about it. And I was actually making really good money too. It wasn't that, it was just the way things are in recycling and all that. And anyway, so I fell in love with this new wellness center, and I was there to grow the business. I was hired to manage it, but the owner said, hey, she was getting her diplomat in nutrition. She was a physician, and they could take extra things. And she said, you can not only go to these classes with me, but you can work on our patients in between classes. And I thought, wow, what an opportunity that is. And I fell in love with the face-to-face. I fell in love with the clinical side, which is working directly with people coming in the office. And
right.
I spent 10 years there, Derick, 10 years. And my job was to run lab on everybody. And it didn't matter what the problem was. Like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing and treating something. I want to know what's really wrong with you.
Right.
And there was all these great mentors that I had that were research scientists and doctors and the guys that owned labs, and they were alternative labs. Like, doctors weren't running these tests. And some of them, they still aren't, because insurance doesn't pay for them for the low. I did that for 10 years. And frankly, I just, to round it off, I recognized some patterns. I had mentors, but I also did such a high volume of work. Again, just loving it. And working hard all the time, trying to figure things out for people. And I recognized some patterns that were very interesting, and I'd be happy to share them.
Did you see a crossover between the dead fish, the dead birds, and people's labs? I mean, did you see a crossover like, okay,
oh, yeah,
this is crushing us?
Yeah, we run these environmental pollutant panels and toxicity panels that show you the plastics and the weird things that are in your bloodstream. They've done autopsies on young men who died in car accidents in Los Angeles, and they found up to 300 chemicals in every one of them.
From their environment?
From the environment. They took 22, 23, 24, all these young guys that were killed in car accidents, and studied their blood and found out that they were all toxic. And this would be no surprise to you. They've taken the snow off the top of Mount Everest and found a couple hundred chemicals in it. And remember, I was studied environmental law. I know about the chemistry, number of chemicals that are allowed into our air and water, food. This is why recently there's a new sheriff in town in terms of the Health and Human Services happened yesterday, who's going to get to the bottom of this stuff. Why do we allow all these chemicals in our food and stuff?
Hopefully we'll find out. I mean, that's obviously a vital, important deal. As I was going through your bio, your information, and doing my homework, a quote that you said, which is, your labs are a lie. You're saying that you've done tons of lab work. What's the lie inside the labs?
Well, I think what I was saying there is that the lab results aren't the problem. We know you'd agree that symptoms aren't the problem, right? So I've just taken it to the next step and said, well, lab test results aren't the problem. They are also, like symptoms, the result of the problem. So if a lot of your listeners, and maybe you, went to a doctor once, got some blood work done, and they said, oh, it looks normal. Yours may have come out abnormal in one area, but otherwise they're normal. Well, that's good, but why do you still have so many complaints? This is, again, 25 years ago when I started. Everyone coming in the office had a lab test. They'd all been to the doctor, or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, and those doctors or practitioners had said, nothing's wrong with you. If we were a live audience, I'd say, raise your hand if you ever heard a doctor say nothing's wrong with you, or someone who had, and everyone raises their hand, but you feel like crap. So there must be something wrong with you. And so that was the work I did. It was the goal. That's why I say lab work can be kind of a lie. You could say your standard lab work is, well, nothing's wrong with you. I would say, yet on that lab work, we can do subclinical type lab work, this alternative lab, and find the things that are out of balance. Identify those. Yeah.
You made the statement that, well, if you have low T, that's not the problem. So if you're doing your labs and they're the right labs, and you look at a hormonal condition, let's just as an example, I feel like from what I heard and what you're saying today and other research, that there's other underlying problems in our bodies that we need to address, and the results are what we're seeing in low T or other hormonal issues.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good example, low T. One that's more common, especially with women, is the low thyroid. So if you have a certain pattern of symptoms, like with thyroid, it's fatigue, overweight, can't lose it, cold or numb extremities, constipation, feeling sad. So, and thinning hair, add those 5 or 6 symptoms together. And here's the problem is it sounds like thyroid. So I don't use the sounds like method. There's some things I'll tell you about it, but the sounds like method, it sounds like thyroid, or it sounds like low testosterone. Your energy, your libido, your ability to put on muscle and things like that are low. So it sounds like thyroid, or it sounds like testosterone. So that practitioner generally will run a test and go, yep, pat myself on the back. I found your problem. And here's the remedy, and they get out the prescription pad. So as if the test result was the problem. No, that test result, as we just said in the last question, is the result of the problem. Now, most of it is what I've become a real expert in is the stress-related downward spirals. You've heard it, maybe you've heard it said if you've interviewed health practitioners, that, all disease begins in the gut.
Right.
It doesn't. What causes gut it's stress. Everything begins with stress, but it circles around to the gut so much that you hear that common phrase. Oh, it all did. Even Hippocrates 2,500 years ago said all disease begins in the gut. But really, because we have laboratory work now, and I could show you and anyone easily the downward spiral, how the dominoes fall. So it begins with stress. And stress can cause low thyroid. It doesn't mean something's wrong with your thyroid.
Right.
It could be responding appropriately to the stress you're under. What does thyroid do? It regulates metabolism. If you're under a lot of stress, what would your body naturally want to do? Conserve resources, right? How would it do that? Slow down the thyroid production or availability. Now, there's a dozen different things that would cause low thyroid, but that's the problem, is what's causing it. Not, I found your problem, it's low thyroid, take this. We'll get those test results looking good.
So obviously it sounds like you're saying if you treat the stress, then you potentially could have improved thyroid problems. I know you said there's a multitude of potential issues.
Yeah.
But just in general, based on what you're saying if you could alter your stress, reduce your stress, that you could heal yourself.
Yeah, it's part of it.
Okay.
It's part of it. It's a big part. It's one of the 5 main ingredients in a self-directed, what we call an epigenetic or lifestyle-based program. It's not your genes, because you can't pick your parents. It's the epigenetics involved, which is the influence upon each individual, their environment and everything. So, and that's why I say it's stress, but there's diet. So I'm going to give you the DRESS.
Okay.
Diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, which is the question, and then supplementation. So DRESS spells dress. It's cute, but it really is the ultimate epigenetic program for an individual when it's directed by the right lab work. So I really believe in the lab work first, and we search for hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification problems, all these healing opportunities. Then we can direct a customized dress program. So now I can answer your question with that framework. The stress reduction is huge. Yeah, you got to eat right. Yeah, we know you got to get to the gym. Yeah, we know you need a good night's sleep. But finding out the stressors, is it mental, emotional stress from you don't like your job or your kids or your, yeah, right.
Right.
I raised 4 of them. So, and I used to coach football. I used to have 30 kids every season, and it was amazing, beautiful. I love working with kids. But the thing is, stress could be mental, emotional. You all know what I mean. But it could also be existential angst, like no purpose in your life. I would find that very stressful. If I didn't have something to get up for every day, that would be stressful. So people with no purpose, we call it existential stress or angst. By the way, I have a better URL for people. That one will get you there, but we'll put that in the show notes maybe. But so stress could be mental, emotional, it could be spiritual and existential. But here's the other thing. Where I came from was the environmental world. So I know how much stress is out there in terms of what's in the air and water. And we've cleaned a lot of that up. A bunch of hippie lawyers in the 70s started suing the government and the military and big companies. We've cleaned up lakes and rivers and some of the air. There's no more acid rain hardly and things like that. But it's still ubiquitous in our food. And that's got to be addressed. That's going to be getting addressed in the next couple of years coming up. So you got your mental, emotional stress, you got your existential angst, you've got your chemical stressors, which is everywhere, including the top of Mount Everest. And I told you about the 300 different chemicals found in bodies.
Right.
And what about pain from old injuries? Now you, like an athlete, to me, you probably have a shoulder or a knee.
Absolutely. Shoulders and knees. Shoulders and knees.
Yeah. So I got both shoulders, both knees, neck, low back and stuff because I have a well-used body. And so that's another type of stress. And the key factor is that your body responds the same way to any stressors. You can get punched in the face or just yelled at, and your body responds the same. Cortisol goes up, your DHA and sex hormones go down. Now you're in a catabolic state. Your body's breaking down. You're aging before your day. And yet you could do blood work and everything could look normal. That's the frustrating part.
That's the part that you say. Now, one healing technique that I'm going to ask you to kind of dive into is breath work. Because I saw that you mentioned breath work improves health. So how does breath work improve health, and what exactly do you consider breath work to be?
Breath work is, for me, I use it just as a technique to get to sleep. And it takes me about 4 breaths. And my wife is good. She walked me through some things early on, and I just now can fall asleep like that with some breath work. But you can use breath work any time of day when it's a form of stress reduction. Remember, it's DRESS, and that stress reduction can include some breathing techniques. So if you're in a sympathetic mode versus parasympathetic, your nervous system the autonomic nervous system gets out of balance. And we have so much of that stress, you watch TV too much, you're going to be in a sympathetic state. That means fight, flight. So, and your hormones are doing things and your nervous system is doing things to prepare you to, it's called the flight or fight. And they've added freeze, fight, flight, or freeze to that. So if you want to get out of that mode, do some breathing because it stimulates the parasympathetic. Rest and digest your food and, procreate. Those are 3 most fun things, right? So, you do that through breathing and calming yourself down. Control your blood pressure. Anyone who knows anything about fighting, whether it's a bar fight or just at the gas station, you breathe right and you'll be more prepared to handle a tense situation.
Okay.
I read books on things like that, self-defense. I've done a lot of martial arts, and it's all about breathing to control your heart rate. You get down, and now you can react appropriately. When your heart rate's up and you got the hormones flowing, that's where you fumble the keys and drop them on, things like that. So
That makes sense. I have 2 more questions for you. My next question is, what would a layperson, somebody new to functional medicine, they want to reach out to you and they love, the approach that you have. They love it makes great sense about the in-depth search that you do on the labs. And I heard that you do, saliva, you do urine, you do blood. But what tests would you recommend? And do you work with individuals? I know you teach courses. I know you're teaching other people how to do this, but do individuals come to you or no?
Individuals come and I direct them to the course because you could take it just for your own edification. And we take on all comers. I don't exclude. You don't have to be a licensed practitioner. I'm actually a lay person myself. I'm an expert, but I'm not a doctor and I don't want to be. I found out years ago, they got their handcuffs on.
Yeah, they're regulated, but you're an expert. We would never consider you a lay person, no matter what you say. So,
nah, I'm just really just a guy that likes to study stuff. Besides breathing, I go to bed listening to tapes and stuff,
What kind of tapes do you listen to?
I've been listening lately to some Robert Kiyosaki, just Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Right.
He's got a new book on financial IQ. So I have lots of other ones.
I'm surprised that you listen to that going to bed trying to fall asleep quickly because that just makes your mind race. At least it makes my mind race. If I listen to something like that, it's going to make me think. I'm a financial planner by profession. So now I'm thinking about, my strategy for the next year. How is this going to affect my advice that I give? What changes am I going to put in my head would just be going. So you can listen to something like that, take 4 breaths and you're out.
Yeah. I mean, this is why I can listen to the same book. I just go to Audible, with my Amazon credits and I get free books all the time.
Right.
And I don't know, I must listen to 100 books this year.
I love it. So here's my last question for you. If you were the health director, you said you expect to see some changes coming up in the next couple of years. If it were you, what steps would you take to help all of us live in a better world?
I would really push elimination of toxins, chemicals, and poisons from our environment.
Okay.
I think going back to my environmental law roots, we're being poisoned. One doctor that I work with, Dr. Russell Jaffe, be a great guy for your show, by the way. He's a bit of a nut. And he says, we're marinating in a toxic soup. All humans.
And what does he tell you to do, or what does he do, or what do you do to try to diminish those 300 toxins down to 100, if you could?
Yeah, right. It sounds weird, but get back to organic food, grow your own food. My wife and I grow food. I happen to be very fortunate to live in Southern California, and I have some property. It took me 20 years to get, but, we grow our own food. We are only natural beef and things like that. Listen, you can't empty a bathtub when the water's still running.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to shut the chemical spigot off. And maybe that would be the best way to describe it. Get the toxins and chemicals and bullshit out of our lives, food supply.
All right.
Yeah.
Last question. I know I said only had 2, but I got one more. It's a little bit more fun. So tell us what your 7 Letterman son is doing these days? What's he doing now that he's probably out of high school and out of college? What's he doing?
He's 42 years old now. He worked for Steve Wynn in Vegas for 15 years till Wynn left and said it wasn't any fun anymore. He's got his real estate license and he does that. So, he's still very athletic. He's kind of a champion wakeboard surfer and he teaches people. He's got his own boat. He's got a couple of boats on Lake Mead in Nevada. And so he's doing that, but he's still a host. He's a VIP host. He's in Vegas having a good time.
That's good. Well, you got to be proud of him. You got to be proud of all your kids. And we appreciate you bringing this information to the forefront. Tell us, before you leave, tell us about The Gap and tell us about the URL that you would love for everybody to go to.
I'm going to say go to fdntraining.com /Derick. Yeah, the one you're flashing up is, I don't know where you got that from, but it might get you to my main website, but we want to give people a custom URL for this podcast. It's fdntraining.com /Derick with one R. There you go. Just go there and we'll give you something for free to read or work on. We have workshops. We have all this free offerings there. And you'll learn about our course if that was of some interest to you. And so that would be the best URL to go to. Perfect. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Well, we appreciate you joining us. We appreciate the work that you're doing to spread the word for better health, less toxins. Definitely didn't scratch the surface on.
Yeah, we got a lot more to talk about, man.
We have a lot more to dig into, and I look forward to it. We want to give people bite-sized bits of information and directions on where they should start to dive in. And I really like the fact that you have a course that people can take to take their own health into their hands. I know that when I did some lab work last, I got the results from LabCorp in a mobile app. You can go through and they make it pretty easy to understand where you are and what the normal is. So doing that and diving deeper and learning even more about how your specific body works, but we'll have you back because we want to talk about the supplements. So,
okay, Derick, anytime, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Look forward to getting The Gap, and I look forward to checking out your website. And we encourage everyone to go to fdntraining.com /Derick. That's DERICK. And there's some special things waiting for you to help elevate your life. Thank you so much. And I'm going to close it out, but we'll send you all the show notes, man. Look forward to talking to you again about the supplements.
Yes, sir. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. So, if you don't take control and understand not only who you are, and you already know that my favorite saying is master your mind and you will always be free. And part of mastering your mind or mastering yourself is understanding what is going on in your body. I believe that you need high levels of energy to perform at a high level consistently. And in order to do that, you need your body, your mind, your nutrition to all be working in consort at the highest level possible where you are. As a 58-year-old man, I am keenly interested in what's going on inside of me and how I can actually produce the best out of myself so that I can offer my best to the world. Hey, I'm Derick Gant. Be your best. Bring your best. Leave nothing to chance.